All right, welcome back into the podcast. Haven't been able to get this guy on in the last couple of years and able to set it up today. Excited to do it. It's always a great conversation to have him on. He is Patrick Mannelly. You know him well, of course, the longtime special teams long snapper for the Chicago Bears, and now pre and post on the Score. The Twitter handle, if you're not following him, is pretty easy. It's at Patrick Mannelly, and he joins me now. Patrick, Bill Zimmerman, how you doing?
Bill, I'm doing good. Wish there was a win yesterday, but other than that, I can't complain.
Yeah, before we get into the win, and I didn't mention this, but before we started the interview, but I always like asking you, special teams and everything. Yeah. Devin Hester, I know as Bears fans, and I think it's inevitability. It's a matter of when, not if he gets into the Hall of Fame. But I'm really hopeful for this year. Last year was going to be tough with a lot of the big time first year ballot guys. I'm really hoping that this year is the year for him to break through and get in. And it would just be exciting because, he's such a different player. And I know when he was playing, we used to hear a lot, well, he's just a returner. That's not enough. But, Ray Guy got in as a punter, and we all expect Adam Vinatieri to get in a lot more. To the all-time great special teamers. We're starting to see it now. It would be great to see it for Hester. I don't know if you talk to him. Is he on pins and needles? Is he just, you think he's relaxed and ready for it whenever? Because obviously as Bears fans, we want to see that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I've talked to him a little bit. I know he really wants to get in there, and just my opinion, he deserves it. I know there's talk about the number of plays that he played in the NFL doesn't equate to some of the other Hall of Famers that are in the Hall of Fame. But the game evolves, right? It changes. And that man changed the game at that position, and then obviously won a lot of games for us, changed field position. I know there's some people doing some research for Dan Pompei and I forgot who else might present him or would help present him, but they're doing some research to help, build his cause to get in the NFL. But you just turn that tape on and you watch what he did every Sunday, Thursday, Monday, whenever he was playing. He changed the game. He changed game plans. He changed field position. And he was just that electric. He deserves to be in there. It's unfortunate he didn't go on the first ballot, and I get it. It's one that needs to be talked through, and it's like I said, it's a different position. But I know he wants to be in there soon. He deserves to be in there. And I know all my contemporaries I played against, all my teammates obviously believe he should be in there. Just the name Devin Hester, if it's not in the Hall of Fame, it's kind of a travesty.
Yeah, and I know it's his most famous return, obviously, because it happened in the Super Bowl. But hearing Tony Dungy talking about that is just the perfect example of his impact, where Tony Dungy was basically like, we're not going to let some returner dictate how we play football. We're going to play our game. He kicks to him. He returns it for a touchdown. And Tony Dungy, all right, we're done. We're never going to try that again. And he jokes about it, now when he talks about it, like that was a huge mistake. And that just sums it up perfectly, that the great coaches, Hall of Fame coaches, are like, well, a punt returner or a kick returner, even as great as he is, can't impact the game that much. And then when they experience it firsthand, they go, oh, wait a minute.
Bill, he had to think about that situation for 2 weeks, right? We had 2 weeks between the NFC champ. So that right there tells you that a single returner in the NFL made you lose sleep for 2 weeks about what you were going to do on one of the first kickoff to him. Would you kick the ball to him? And then think about how many punters and other kickers had to deal with that. And that gets in your head. How many times guys, trying to angle it out of bounds, they put it right back in the middle of the field. Poor Chris Cluey, very good NFL punter, happened to him a lot. He's trying to hit an out-of-bounds ball. He puts it right back in the middle of the field, and Devin has a couple returns on him. But that's Devin. He just got in people's minds and changed the game, and that's why he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Not just because of that, his numbers as well and everything, but he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And like I said, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame now. So I think this year bodes well for him. So we'll cross our fingers that this is the year it happens. And I'll talk some special teams with you here in a little bit on the 2023 Bears, but don't want to bury the lead. Let's talk a little Saints, and obviously we'll get into the quarterback play here a little bit. But kind of just before we get into the specifics, what was your overall vibe, your feeling watching this game yesterday? I mean, 5 turnovers is brutal, but they kept it within a score despite having that disparaging, difference there. So kind of where were you with this game and how it played out?
It's just, it seems like we're here every week, right? It seems like you're disappointed with something happens. Doing the pregame with Mully and Olin, we all said that we thought it was going to be a blowout. I think I predicted 27-10. Just coming off after the week they had with the firings and all that stuff with Jalen Johnson signing a new player, and just a terrible week the week before going against the Chargers, and kind of a similar offense with Austin Eckler and Alvin Kamara. I just thought they didn't match up well. So in the end, it's one of those now that we're at a point as Bears fans and Bears analysts, you try to take as much positive as you can because there is so much negative. So in the end, number one, I was entertained, right? Because it was only a one-score game. So you're somewhat entertained, and you were hoping for Tyson Bagent to continue his first half into the second half. And then it just kind of reared its head of kind of who he is. He's an undrafted kid that's trying to make it in the NFL, and it's just not polished yet. I don't know if he'll ever be an elite player, if he'll ever be a starter in the NFL, but his story of beating the Raiders is great. But you're always hoping for that story to become greater. And I think at halftime we were all excited. But Boomer Esiason said something, I think, on the CBS halftime report that if he continues playing well, it should question if Justin Fields can come back. But then again, Tyson Bagent came out and had his struggles, 2 interceptions, a fumble as well. But overall, I think, Bill, right now it's so depressing that they keep losing. That just who I am as a person, I try to find some positive in everything. And so to me, it was a loss, but there were some good things offensive line wise. Tyson Bagent's first half, the run game's still good. So it's just difficult. It's just what it is, just more of the same old right now.
So let me ask you this as a player, when you have a season like this, because I know, over your, nearly 2 decades, you had plenty of great seasons and plenty of seasons where the team just didn't click. When you have a first half that's, unfortunately just as bad as this one has gone for the Bears. And I don't know if you ever experienced anything like this one, especially early on, when it just seemed like all the wheels were falling off. But as a player, when you're at about the mid-season point and you're sitting there, you're 2-7, and you got a half a season to go, do you lose? Is it hard to keep the motivation? Is it okay because you're professionals and you're like, we still have time to get some wins under our belt and make this a season we can be more proud of? Kind of how does the locker room keep the right mentality?
You always have to believe, and sometimes you have to sell yourself some falsities, right? Like Eberflus was talking about, hey, we were 2-2 in our last 4 games. And that stuff, to me, I wish he wouldn't have told the media, but that stuff you sell your team. You're trying to get these guys to stay motivated. But as me as an individual, you have to keep that motivation by yourself. That's your job. I want to stay in the NFL as long as I could. I took pride in doing what I did. And I think every player does in the NFL at whatever position they play. So it's your internal pride. And then you try to bring that together. And you do try to find some ways of almost falsifying some enthusiasm, right? That you have a chance. Sometimes, if you look at a roster on one team, when they go play the Lions, the Lions right now are a much better football team. That's a couple weeks from now compared to what the Bears are. But then you're like, wait, they're interdivision guys. We played them before. Maybe we can beat them. So you start to build these things up in your mind that you believe you can win. And you have to do that. If you don't do that, you're defeated anyway. But I think every individual in the NFL has to do that. Even if you are 1-9, 2-7, whatever it is, you just have to have that inner belief that somehow, some way you can win. Because listen, every Sunday you watch, it's a story, right? There's one game that you never think somebody's going to beat them. Somebody beats somebody. So if you are that 2-7 team going forward, you're like, hey, why can't we be that team this week? Why can't we be that team 3 or 4 years ago that went on a 4-game winning streak that was 2-7 and ended up okay? So you just kind of have to sell yourself that.
And you speak of believing, and you talked a little bit about Tyson Bagent before, and I do think that this team really, have his back and really do believe in him, that he can make the throws and do what he needs to do. And I think I'm with you. I think this is a great story. I think this is totally beneficial for the Bears. Yes. That they could have a QB2 on a UDFA contract, basically less than $1 million a year, where if you need a good QB2, that you're signing as a veteran, that's $5, $6, $7 million a year you need to spend on that position.
Sure.
That's a big help. And that would be great. I know some guys in the media and a lot of fans wanted to try and hype this into something more than it was, which frustrated me more so because I felt it was unfair to Tyson Bagent to put that much on a UDFA kid from Division II. But I liked a lot of what I saw, especially when he can keep within himself in the offense. But I think that second half, when it became a little more one-dimensional and he really needed to challenge the Saints defense with his arm, he just didn't have that. And I know arm strength at this point, it's tough to gain some, and hopefully he will over the next couple of years. But that's where I see him. I see him as a physically limited quarterback, but I see him as a smart guy who knows the offense, knows what he's doing. and can really be an asset for this team moving forward, whether it's Justin Fields or a new quarterback here in 2024.
Yeah, and the city is so quarterback starved, right? I mean, it's been so long since we've had a franchise quarterback, and there's so much hope in everyone that comes along. There was so much hope in Justin Fields. He still has a chance, but he's going down for me. And then with Tyson Bagent, so to me, celebrate the story of him winning an NFL game. That story of him coming from Shepherd, beating the Raiders, that's awesome. You should not be comparing him to Justin Fields. You should be comparing him to other rookie quarterbacks, other backup quarterbacks in the league. Like you said, did we find a quarterback two? I think Matt Spiegel on the Score had a quarterback two party, right? Saying we found a backup. So that's the way it should be celebrated. And hopefully he is that. And you're right about money-wise. You keep him as a backup, and then you find maybe if you have to draft another quarterback, you save money. You can always bring that veteran on the practice squad, right? Like Nathan Peterman. So you don't have to pay him $6, $7, $8 million to be the backup. You can still bring a guy in that is that kind of mentor that you hopefully doesn't have to play, but can be there and teach the young guys, teach Tyson as well. So it's a great story, and it is what it is. It's I just think this town is so quarterback starved that you hear on the radio they're making comparisons to Drew Brees, Brett Favre. There's no way, guys. Please slow it down. We know what he is. The scouts know what he is. There's a reason why he wasn't drafted. The story's great. He won an NFL game. Let's celebrate, like you said. We potentially now have a backup quarterback moving forward who's a serviceable guy who has to stop turning the ball over. That's the number one thing. If he had to continue playing, I said this on the radio after the game yesterday, if he had to continue playing and Justin Fields was out a couple more weeks and he continued to turn the ball over the way he is, you have to sit him. You can't let him play because you can't do that to your team. Like you were talking about going out there at 2-7, you can't put a quarterback out there knowing that's going to turn the ball over 2 to 3 times. I think you would have to maybe make the move to Nathan Peterman. That's down the road and that's whatever. That's hopefully does not happen. But that's just me saying that Tyson Bagent has to play better if he's going to continue playing or if he is going to get some more reps for the rest of the season.
And that's kind of where I am with Bagent, and I agree with you there 100%. And you hear the argument, oh well, Tony Romo and Kurt Warner and the UDFA success stories. But the one thing that I always say when people go, well, how do you know that he's limited and he can't do that? But I also say this, I'm like, and if he does, continue to defy the odds and continues to develop and get better and better and maybe figures out how to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, Romo and Warner and even guys like Jake Delhomme and Brad Johnson, they weren't starters until they were 28, 29 years old. They were in the league 5 or 6 years kind of building up to that point. So it's just kind of a thing of how further back kind of Bagent is in that whole developmental arc than guys who are Division I and playing at Ohio State and some of the, Alabama and these massive programs. And that's the thing is, be patient with it. Let him develop as a QB2. And if in 2026, the next quarterback the Bears bring in doesn't pan out and they give him a shot and it starts coming together, fun, great story. Let's ride with it. But again, like I said earlier, I just was so frustrated because I felt it was unfair to Tyson Bagent putting that all on his shoulders.
But here's the other thing. Do you think in 4 years, 5 years from now that you could win a Super Bowl with Tyson Bagent?
As of right now, I would say no.
No, right? I think if you projected him as well, you would say no. So he's not the answer. To me, he's not the answer. You're trying to win a Super Bowl, right? The Bears have not won one since January 1986. So you're trying to win a Super Bowl. So you have to find that Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's the way the league is driven right now. If you look at like the top 7 quarterbacks every year, this is what I try to do every year, they're going to make the playoffs just because they're the best quarterbacks, unless there's like catastrophic injuries all across the team. But that's what you're looking for here in Chicago. A guy that you just know when you line up week 1, you have a great chance to win the division and or get in the playoffs and make a run. And I don't know if Tyson Bagent is that in 4 years from now. Maybe he is. And what a great story. How cool would that be? And, another great story written in NFL history. But right now it's not. To me, the Bears need to look for that Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Could it be Justin Fields? I don't think so right now. We'll see what happens in the next 8 games. And maybe it's in the draft this year. But that's what I think the Bears should be looking for.
Yep, I agree 100%. And, as of the time of this recording, we don't know if Fields is playing this week or not. It's a short week, probably not, when you listen to the DJ more afterwards. So, we'll see moving forward and if he gets those reps, and he's really going to have to put on a show the last 7 games or so if he cements himself as QB1. But
here's the other question, Bill. Will Luke Getsy tailor the offense to him more? That's what I want to see. I think it would be unfair to Justin Fields if he did not do that.
Yeah,
I think they're trying to force a round peg in a square hole. It's what it seems like to me, that they've tried to put him, spread the field. We're going to run five down up front. We're going to block and see if you can read the defense. That's not his skill set. He has a skill set that's different for this, this league. We've seen Lamar Jackson run it, but it just doesn't seem like Luke Getsy is calling plays that is tailored to Justin Fields. And hopefully after this time he's been off, they've sat down, they've thought about it and said, listen, Tyson runs this offense the way I want it run, but maybe we have to change it up a little bit and give more Justin Fields some Justin Fields plays.
Yeah, and let me, since you brought that up, let me ask you about that, because in your career, I'm just doing the math in my head. I think was it 5 head coaches you played for?
Yeah.
Did you play for Lonnie?
Yeah, 5. Yeah, 5.
Okay, yeah. So 5 coaches. So some with varying degrees of success.
Yeah.
But isn't it kind of the goal, the core of coaching, that you should tailor to the talent you have? I mean, yes. We screamed about that with Matt Nagy, with Mitch Trubisky. Even when we knew Mitch wasn't the guy, we're like, well, there's things Mitch can do, and Nagy's not doing it with them. And then Bill Lazor did it a little bit more. I mean, isn't that the point of coaching? Let me assess what I have talent-wise, and let me put these guys in a position to succeed.
What you just said there is perfect. Ron Turner, I forgot what year it was. He was here with us, and he said at one of his first meetings, I'm sitting in office meetings, he said, listen, my job as a coordinator is to put you in position to succeed. And I've never heard a coach say that. That's a pretty simple statement, right? That's the way it should be done. Granted, we've got to be limited on talent, but he was trying. But to hear a coach say that and openly try to do that is what should be going on right now in Chicago. I don't know if that's happening. Just sometimes you look at some of the play calls and you question it. I'll go back to the Saints game real quick with Tyson Bagent. First half, they're running the ball well, right? He's throwing the ball okay. He's throwing it well. They're kind of balancing it back and forth. You go to the last 4 series of the game, there's 2 turnovers, a punt, and 2 interceptions, a turnover, and a punt. Early in the fourth quarter, they run the ball, get no yardage. They give the ball right to Tyson Bagent to try to get the first down on second and third down. Throws an interception. The next one, I think, is a punt. The next one, the same thing happens. They run the ball, they get second and long. They put it in Tyson Bagent's hand. I don't understand that. You're only down 1. You have a run game. Why not run it again?
Sure.
Why not run it again? And then punt and then play defense. They're playing defense much better in the back in the second half. But to me, Luke Getsy, that would be a question I would have. Why did you give him the ball so much in the second half when even last year people argued the Bears would be down 7 points and Justin Fields kept handing the ball off, right? He kept handing the ball off. You're like, why aren't you letting him throw the ball? This game plan, he let Tyson Bagent kind of try to take over in the fourth quarter, and it backfired. So there's a two-way street of trying to get your players to be in the best position to play, but sometimes your players might not be the best player for that position at that point. I mean, it's a young quarterback in his rookie year.
Well, while we're talking about putting players in the right positions, let me ask you about the offensive line. Kind of tell me what you would do here, because right now we're starting to see some pieces come into play. We're starting to see Darnell Wright continue to improve and turn it into something. Tevin Jenkins comes back and he's mauling people. He's looking great. And Braxton Jones coming back. I know he had a couple of mistakes, but good to see him back there. We know he's a better player than Larry Borum. So here's my question. Nate Davis, when he comes back, and hopefully I doubt he's back this week, but maybe he'll be back the week after against Detroit. What do you do with the offensive line? Do you move Nate over to left guard? Do you flip Tevin back over to left guard? And what do you do at center? Do you try Cody Whitehair again? Do you move Cody Whitehair to the bench? What is your offensive line, when they have all their pieces, hopefully have all their pieces here in a couple of weeks?
You know what the best thing about this conversation is? It's a good problem we're talking about.
True.
You know what I mean? We haven't had this. This kind of means you have depth now. You're seeing this offensive line gel. Tevin Jenkins is playing really, really well. Had a great game yesterday. Darnell Wright, to me, is really on the upswing, and he's a huge, powerful man like Tevin Jenkins. You're right. Nate Davis, I don't know what you do, because I really like Tevin Jenkins and Wright next to each other. They're a force. They're, to me, when a defensive line gets together on Wednesday and they get their game plan, they look at who they're going against, they're saying, oh, crap, we got to be ready for this in the run game. We have to be prepared for this. They can just line up and move people off the ball, not having to, ball fake or doing that. They can just line up and double team you way off the ball and get yardage. So to answer your question, I don't know what you do with Nate Davis, because when you sign him and you pay him that money, you brought him in to be your right guard, and you probably sold him that.
And he had played right guard pro college.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if he can make the move over there. But if you feel that the best five, if, in my opinion, the best five, and I've met Cody, know Cody well. Father Time is catching up a little bit. He's not playing as well as he has. He's still good. He's still good player. He's as good as what he's paid. I'll say that. He's not what he was a couple years ago. We all get older and go downhill. If you want to put your best five out there, it's Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Lucas Patrick, Nate Davis, and then it's Darnell Wright, in my opinion. But what I've seen, and we talked about this on the pre and post game show. If you saw the success with Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright, how hard is it to move those guys apart from each other?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a good problem to have, and if these pieces continue to improve and come together, I mean, you just kind of look at it and go, upgrade at center, and you've really for 2024, and you've got a line like like it's the one thing that I sit there and go, if Caleb Williams or Drake May is this team's quarterback next year and keeps trending that direction as every week passes, putting them in and putting that quarterback, that rookie quarterback in this offense, whether it's Luke Getsy or different offense, I'm just talking about the talent, where you've got a safety valve like Cole Kmet, and you've got DJ Moore. Heck, you could have a Marvin Harrison or another. There's some great wide receivers coming out in this rookie class. To have some good running backs and this offensive line in front of him, that for once, for the Chicago Bears, who never do anything the right way, it really looks like they could be in a position to put a rookie quarterback in a favorable spot.
Yeah, and I think for a center too, do you want to go out and draft one high? Or my opinion, if you are going to go the young quarterback route again, you find a Nate Davis type center, somebody you pay a little bit to come in there to really solidify that, make that quarterback feel comfortable, make that quarterback so he doesn't have to make all the calls. You hear about making the mic calls and the blitz calls and all that stuff. I played with Olin Kreutz, and he made the quarterback's life a lot easier because he made all those calls. And that would be a great way to have it set up for a young quarterback if he is coming in. Even if Justin Fields is still there and turns it up a little bit, I still think he's a player that needs somebody in front of him as kind of a field general like Olin was, that can help him feel more comfortable with all those calls and take a little bit off his plate. So to me, if I want to upgrade this offense, I'm not drafting a center. I'm finding one that I might have to overpay a little bit, that might be younger and upcoming and potential Pro Bowler guy, like a Nate Davis guy that shows you he can already play, but is also very smart.
All right, let me ask you a couple more before I let you go. Yeah. One, defense. I got to ask you about the pass rush, and it's frustrating. I mean, last two games with their
what pass rush?
Exactly.
There's your answer.
4 quarterback hits and 0 sacks over the last 2 games. If you eliminate the Washington game, which I know people say, well, you can't eliminate their best game. Well, you can when everyone is doing that to Washington.
Sure.
It's just kind of, that's just kind of what happens with that team. I mean, the number, 5 sacks, I think it is, in 8 games. That isn't the Washington game. There's just absolutely no pass rush. I know Matt Eberflus wasn't much of a guy that dialed up pressure in Indianapolis either, but you just can't succeed like this. And you see, Derek Carr is not the quarterback he was, but if you give these guys time, you see when you have a good quarterback, what Justin Herbert will do when he has all day back there. I know Montez Sweat will hopefully, start bringing some pressure and help in there. But to me, Dexter, Pickens, maybe they're rotational pieces. I know they have an opportunity to get better. I'm not seeing the flashes of big time disruptors that I think they were hoping they could be. If they don't figure out a way to get a 3-tech in here and some interior pass rush like Akeem Hicks was able to do, a few years ago, I just don't see how this pass rush is going to get much better moving forward.
No, I think that's the key piece, is getting a 3 technique. The 2 young rookies, I was hoping, just because, we talked about their genetic freaks, they tested real well. They're supposed to be all this kind of stuff, that you would just win one-on-one, right? And they haven't done that. They've kind of been, sitting there and held up and not causing much disruption at all. Dexter, to me, they talked about him playing a 2-gap scheme. He's still not getting off the ball as quick as everybody else. When you sit there and put it in slow motion, he's a half step behind, and you can't be that in the cover 2 defense. You got to be eyes on the ball, getting off as soon as it's going. Pickens the last couple of weeks is playing a little better. I've got to say he's playing a little better than Dexter right now. But overall, I guess I'm a little disappointed in those 2 young rookies of what they've done so far. I don't expect that much more, because as a rookie, you start declining once you get this part of the season, because you're like, what the heck? I got this many more games. I only played 11 or 12 games in college, so it's a little different. And I'm not sure if they're the answer at the 3 technique. Justin Jones, to me, is an NFL player, right? He's a guy you want on your roster that's a rotational piece who happens to have to be a starter. So right now, those 2 picks have not played up to what I was hoping for them to play. And I'm sure Ryan Poles as well was hoping they would make some flash plays or splash plays here and there, but they're not. So to me, that's another piece that you have to get in free agency and or find one in the draft high up again that maybe is maybe can step in like a Tommy Harris like we had when he walked right in and it was a dominant force.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they get something like that it changes the whole dynamic of that defensive line. So, but again,
there's nothing you can do this year. That's it. Right. They tried Montez Sweat. One guy to me with this D line is not going to make that big of a difference. He's going to make a difference, but not one where you're like, oh, look at the pressure now. It's here. It's all, 3rd and 8. They're always getting the quarterback. You're going to see some flashes, I think, from him. Sometimes he's going to be disruptive in games and help guys get open, whether an ET or TE. But right now, this year, there's no real answer because you need one more guy at least.
All right, before we let you go here, I always want to ask you about special teams because I think that's one thing we don't ever talk about it that much because I think a lot of people really don't know exactly how to break down what they're seeing and everything. And obviously, you're one that has that experience. So, kind of, how do you think special teams has been playing as a whole? Any specifics you want to highlight? I mean, Santos, I know he had the doink, against the Saints, but can't argue with the results he's had. He's been great. Trenton Gill, I'm curious your opinion. Where is he as a punter? Is he average, below average? Is he good? Kind of, and in the return game as well. I know Trent Taylor's okay. He's been holding the fort down, which they needed because Valus and Tyler Scott weren't the answers back there. And to me, I don't even worry about kick returns that much anymore because I think the way the game has changed and the rules have changed and the 25-yard line is the touchback. It's just not that important anymore. Maybe you disagree, but kind of where are you with the Bears special teams and kind of how they've worked as a unit this year?
They're a bottom third unit, in my opinion.
Really?
They've given up 3 punt returns of 20-plus yards. And to me, you have a standard in that room, and I was in that room with Dave Tobe, and our standard was really high. I mean, 1 20-yard return to 2 20-yard returns is terrible for a season. They already have 3. They had one last week, another one didn't go 20, it went 18. So they're struggling on their coverage from the right side of the punt coverage team. I think Trenton Gill has regressed. Unfortunately, I think he's been a little more inconsistent than he was last year. He had a punt yesterday that came back to the middle of the field, only went 45 yards. Hang time wasn't good. I think they had a 13-yard return, and he's an excellent returner. That's kind of like the Devin Hester effect. I think he was trying to kick it to the corner. He has a couple good ones to the corner, but he hooked it back to the middle. They had a little bit of return. But I just think overall his season has regressed. Cairo Santos, 11 in a row, man. Okay. He doinked the 40-yarder, and that's not excusable indoors, in my opinion. Like if we're sitting in our room, we're talking, he'd be like, dang it, that's one I should not miss. But if he makes 11 in a row again, you can't be mad at that guy. He's had a very good Bears career so far. Return game, Valus Jones is just so as a kick returner, you've got to be able to track the ball. We know he can't track the ball well as a punt returner. That's why he's not returning kicks. Well, the kickoff is different. It's more that flip-flop kick, much easier to track. He still has trouble doing that. With his explosiveness and speed, he should already be there reading the kick, set up, catching the ball, and hitting it as soon as he's catching it. I think it was 2 weeks ago against Minnesota. He fumbled one, had to take it in the end zone. There's a couple where he's catching it kind of like sideways and not hitting it straight up the field. And to me, that's him just not tracking the ball well. Maybe not knowing. You scout also a kicker when their takeoff to the ball. If it's coming inside out, it might be it just depends on how you scout the kickers. I'm not sure if they're doing a good job at that. But overall, bottom third. I just haven't been impressed with it. They've had a field goal, a PAT blocked. They have blocked a couple field goals. Yeah, Rasheem Green, which are great. Yep. Yeah, which are great. But overall, they're a bottom third unit. If I'm scouting and wanting to go against them, I'd actually be licking my chops a little bit.
Interesting. Let me ask you one more about Gill because there's no stats for this. You don't have many stats. Even if you look at the advanced stats, there's not much additionally there with punters. But to me, and it's more of a vibe, and I kind of looked it up, and again, I don't know who to compare it to as punters and what they should be able to do. I feel like when the Bears punt from midfield and they have an opportunity to really pin the team deep, get that team at the 4, 5, 6 yard line, they always seem to have it at the 17 or 18. Like it always feels like a missed opportunity because to me, and I know this is high school when I'm going back and talking about when I was playing offense, when you're sitting there at the huddle in your own end zone versus, at the 10-yard line and you're almost at the 20, it's a totally different mentality for an offense. And I feel like the Bears don't do that very often. I know it's not all on Gill. There's coverage as well to get that ball.
No, that to me, that kick, that's all about the punter. These guys now have a flip-flop kick where they kick it like end over end. You know, back in the day, you hear about coffin corner. Like we had Brad Maynard. He could hit the coffin corner. And then guys came in. I played with Adam Podlish, who played for us for a couple of years. He was one of the first, not one of the first, but in the era when that kind of came in, where they changed that, where you see now the ball will hit and almost backspin. That's why Taylor, somebody was asking me, what was it? Should he have fair caught the ball yesterday? Not the one that was knocked back, but I'm like, yeah, because he caught it on the 7 where potentially that could have been stopped on the 2 and all that kind of stuff. And but the game has changed in that regard, that's a true skill set of just the punters, not about coverage.
Okay.
Getting enough hang time, getting that little ball just to hang and fall down on the 7 or 5 yard line. And that's where Trenton Gill has been inconsistent again. He did a pretty good job of it last year, and this year he is not. I don't know why that is. Could be a little sophomore slump. You hear about second-year guys going through that. And he's got to get better at that. And that is one that to me, all punters now in the NFL should be able to do that. That's just catching the ball and hitting a ball. If you're, a 42-yard kick, hit it high in the air, hit that flip kick, and the guy has to catch it, because it's, the guy can run down and either down it or it's going to hit and bounce backwards and not towards the end zone.
All right. Well, there he is at Patrick Mannelly on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days. And of course, pre and post on the Score and the longtime snapper, almost 2 decades worth of the Chicago Bears. Patrick, thanks for so much time. It was a great conversation. Really appreciate it and hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon, Bill.